In the third year of my marriage to Marcus, because I still hadn't become pregnant, he used my inability to bear children as an excuse to start an affair with his secretary, Jessica. The family line can't end with me. If you can't have children, what's wrong with me finding someone else? Let's just get a divorce. I readily agreed. Marcus threw a wad of cash directly at my face, his eyes filled with disdain as he looked at me. You can't have children. Me sleeping with you for 3 years was a huge favor. Don't be ungrateful. I returned the money to him immediately and chose to leave with nothing. 5 years later, we met again at a premier private women's hospital in Crestwood. Marcus' company had successfully secured funding, and he had become a rising star in the business world. Beside him stood his secretary, a beaming Jessica with a visibly round baby bump. When he saw me in athletic wear, crouching on the ground and digging in a flower pot, he frowned in disgust. Grace, you followed me for years and couldn't even give me a child. Now you're at a women's hospital acting like a gardener, pretending to run into me. Do you think I'll have a change of heart? Even if you realize your mistake, don't imagine I'll go soft and take you back. I ignored him. Lily's favorite limited edition action figure had been playfully buried in a flower pot. Lily was pouting on the verge of tears, so I had to find it quickly. In the hospital's VIP lounge, my ex-husband Marcus walked in gracefully, supporting a woman with a noticeable baby bump. A tailored suit made him look dashing, his face radiating an undeniable smug satisfaction. The wealthy women around them immediately flocked over, greeting them warmly. Mr. Marcus, accompanying your wife for her prenatal checkup. Look at that belly. It's definitely a healthy baby boy. I hear you specifically arranged for Dr. Miller from our hospital this time. Kijiji specialist. Marcus nodded, a proud smile on his face. And any around was even more envious. After all, getting an appointment with a top specialist at this hospital was impossible even with money. Someone looked at his secretary Jessica standing beside him and complimented, "Mrs. Jessica is truly blessed." Unlike some people, Jessica immediately puffed out her belly and leaned against Marcus, sweetly saying, "Oh, Mark and I have such a great connection. I got pregnant within 2 months of us being together. We'll have the wedding after the baby is born." Marcus's expression stiffened slightly, but he quickly regained his smug demeanor. Jess's pregnancy is the priority. The wedding itself isn't as important. Another round of compliments followed. I, however, wanted to laugh. They still hadn't gotten married. 5 years ago, Marcus, pressured by his mother, divorced me and immediately got together with his secretary, Jessica, desperate to declare to the world that he wasn't infertile. He wanted children so badly, so why had he dragged this on, not even giving Jessica an official status? Just then, a woman who looked like Nurse Patricia walked towards me with a cold expression. "Madam, this is the VIP lounge, not a place just anyone can enter." She scrutinized me condescendingly, her eyes filled with undisguised contempt. "You've dug up these flower pots, making a mess. If you damage our rare species airship from Holland, can you afford to pay for it?" I had just been playing with Lily in the garden and was covered in sweat with grass blades clinging to my athletic wear, looking quite disheveled. I quickly apologized. "I'm sorry. My daughter's toy fell in there. I'll clean it up right away." Nurse Patricia cut me off with a look of disdain. "With you looking destitute like that, don't make excuses. Get out immediately, or I'll call security." Her voice was shrill, instantly drawing everyone's attention. Just then, Marcus' gaze swept over. The moment our eyes met, a flicker of surprise crossed his face. "Grace, it's you." Nurse Patricia looked at him, astonished. "Mr. Marcus, you know this woman?" Marcus's haughty expression returned, his tone dismissive. "She used to be a nanny in my household, but she was later let go for lacking judgment in her work." With that, he averted his gaze, as if another glance at me would defile his eyes. Bolstered by this, Nurse Patricia reached out to push me. "Did you hear me? Get out. I've seen plenty of women like you trying to sneak in to snag a rich man. Why don't you take a good look in the mirror?" Caught off guard, I lost my balance and hit my head heavily on the edge of the flower pot. A dull pain flared, and I indignantly said, touching the large lump forming on the back of my head, I told you I'll leave once I find it, and I'll compensate 10 times over for any damaged plants. She let out a sharp, mocking laugh, her face full of malice. She pointed at the flower pot, looking at me with disdain. Do you know what this is? It's a national treasure tulip from Holland. One stem costs 10 years of your salary. Can you afford that? Don't make a spectacle of yourself here. The value of anything in this hospital is beyond the imagination of someone from your background. As she spoke, she reached out again to grab my collar. Stop. Marcus, who had already walked to the other end of the lounge, suddenly turned back. He slowly approached me, his eyes full of condescension. What are you looking for? I'll buy it for you. Stop using these cheap tricks to gain my sympathy. It's disgusting. I have absolutely no feelings for you anymore. Jessica immediately hooked her arm through his and said sarcastically, Mark, just ignore her. She's just resentful because she knows we're together and I'm pregnant. A woman who can't have children is bound to be full of resentment after a divorce. Don't let her fool you. I forced a smile. Is that so? I'm the woman who can't have children. Well, then I wish you both a long and happy life together with them. Any children and grandchildren? Too bothered to say anything more to them. I crouched down and continued digging in the soil. What exactly do you want? Or are you still holding a grudge against me for divorcing you because you couldn't have children? Marcus impatiently pulled out his wallet, took out a wad of cash, and threw it at my feet. Here, take this as compensation. Satisfied? Take the money and leave. Don't let me see you again. The person I've always loved is Jessica. Those 3 years of marriage to you were just to fulfill my mother's wish for a grandson. This money should be enough for you to see a better doctor. Stop embarrassing yourself in front of me. Suddenly he paused. Why do you look so pale? Could it be? Your qi and blood deficiency has worsened. I understood instantly. In his eyes, I was still that infertile, sickly woman with an unbalanced constitution. Marcus, you don't need to worry about me. I'm doing perfectly fine now. My tone was calm. I couldn't be bothered with his nonsense. His voice, however, was full of pity and superiority. You've fallen so low, you're digging in the dirt, and you still won't admit you're not doing well. I looked at him, baffled. Marcus, we divorced 5 years ago. We have no connection anymore. Do I need to report how I'm doing to you? I paused, then added, seriously, you don't need to give me money. I don't need it. If my husband found out another man gave me money, that jealous type of his would surely pickle me in his jealousy. Marcus was visibly stunned, then let out a scoff. Grace, it's been years and I see you're still so strong-willed. I'm only giving you money out of pity. Don't worry, I'm completely loyal and devoted to Jess. I have absolutely no interest in a self-righteous woman like you who can't have children. With that, he stared at my disheveled appearance for a long moment, his gaze becoming complex. Grace, you probably ended up like this because of the trauma of the divorce. I do bear some responsibility for that. Are you refusing the money because you want me to feel guilty about you for the rest of my life? Seeing this, Jessica immediately linked her arm through his sarong. Mark, she has hands and feet. It's not hard for her to find a job and support herself. She brought this upon herself. She has no one to blame but herself. Back then, she clearly couldn't have children herself. Yet, she refused to cooperate with treatment and tried to blame it on you. Her heart is truly rotten. Shut up, distorting the facts like that. I was so angry that I sharply cut her off. Madam, my health is perfectly fine. Please show some respect when you speak. To my surprise, Jessica, hearing my words, furiously pointed her finger at my nose and yelled, You little how dare you talk back? Wasn't I telling the truth? You're just a hen that can't lay eggs. It's fine, Mark. She just cares too much about her pride, and your kindness was taken for granted. Let's go. Forget about this lunatic. Jessica's words left me speechless. I realized that she and I were simply not on the same level. You don't need to trouble yourselves with my affairs. I turned my head away coldly and continued digging in the dirt. Suddenly, a cool Ultraman action figure caught my eye. I sighed in relief. Just as I reached for it, Marcus grabbed my wrist, pulling me sharply to my feet. Grace, you thought $3,000 for a separation fee was too little back then? You couldn't dig up that much money even if you dug all day now, could you? After all these years, he was still so self-important. Back then, Eleanor had forced me to sign the divorce agreement with that forged diagnosis report, and he was right there, silent. The most ridiculous thing was that I still harbored illusions about him at the time. It wasn't until Jessica showed up with an explicit video of him that I finally gave up all hope. Did he really not know what had happened back? Then I looked at his hand, clutching my wrist, and said calmly, "Marcus, I'm doing very well now. I've never thought about going back, so rest assured." I tried to pull free, but he held on tighter. "Didn't you say it yourself? That after the divorce, we'd never have anything to do with each other again." I've always remembered that. He narrowed his eyes. To make him completely give up, I added, "I'm already married. My husband has a bit of a temper and is very possessive. If he saw us grappling like this, he might misunderstand." He abruptly let go of my hand, his face filled with shock and mockery. "What? Grace, you actually married someone else?" Marcus frowned, his gaze full of scrutiny. "Who is your husband? What kind of man could be so blind as to marry a woman who can't have children?" Seeing self-important attitude, I couldn't be bothered to respond. I pretended not to hear his words and remained silent. He suddenly scoffed. "Grace, you almost fooled me again. What did you think inventing a husband would provoke me? Even if you said you had children, I would never believe it." See, in his eyes, I was still that useless woman from 5 years ago who couldn't have children. Yet back then, he was the one who swore he loved me for who I was and that having children didn't matter. I believed him, gave up an opportunity to study abroad, and wholeheartedly became his supportive wife, helping him build his business. How was it that now? In his words, I had become a pathetic joke using lies to gain sympathy. Thinking of this, I shrugged indifferently. "Marcus, think what you like." Jessica exaggeratedly covered her nose and mouth. "Mark, talking to this kind of person is truly unpleasant. Let's go quickly. Let's not be tainted by the smell of destitution." Marcus's gaze, however, was fixated on me, showing no intention of leaving. Jessica shot me a cold glare. "Grace, you're truly someone who suffers for your pride. How about this? We have an appointment with Dr. Miller today, and we happen to need someone to carry bags and run errands. If you're willing, I can give you $500 a day. That money should be enough for a month's food for someone like you, shouldn't it?" Another wave of praise for Jessica followed from the surrounding people. Mrs. Jessica is still beautiful and kind-hearted. Even now, she's still thinking about a shameless woman like this. Marcus also chimed in. "Grace, you're just too strong-willed. You were the one who couldn't have children back then, and you still refuse to admit your mistake. I kindly offered you compensation, but you refused it. Surely, earning money through your own labor should be acceptable, right?" I was almost driven to laughter by this bizarre couple. You see, to accompany Lily and Leo for their annual checkup, I had specifically postponed 3 international medical symposiums to free up this one day. And they actually wanted me to carry bags and run errands. It was utterly ridiculous. My repeated refusal made Marcus' face turn ashen. The wealthy women around immediately began to whisper, "Mr. Marcus, this woman is poor and belligerent. Are you really going to let her see Dr. Miller? If you ask me, forget it. If she offends Dr. Miller, we'll all be unlucky." Nurse Patricia also grew anxious and quickly called security on her walkie-talkie. "Get her out of here immediately. Dr. Miller's specialist clinic is about to begin, and Dr. Miller respectful absolutely hates any noise or commotion." She glared at me, gritting her teeth. "Today we have influential figures from Crestwood, here especially the Alexander family heir from New, who specifically brought his wife and children for a checkup. It's the first time such distinguished guests have honored our hospital with their presence. Normally, if you were digging in the dirt here, I wouldn't even bother. I might even give you some plastic bottles to sell for money. But not today. If you cause trouble here, you'll ruin our hospital's reputation within the top echelons of society. That's a responsibility a mere nurse like me can't bear." Security quickly dragged this woman out for me. The security guards, who had been relatively restrained, immediately stepped forward, preparing to forcibly drag me away. I struggled to break free from them. I'll walk myself out. Seeing me finally give in, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief, as if granted a reprieve. Just then, an aged but powerful voice came from nearby. "What's everyone gathered around here for?" Everyone looked in the direction of the voice to see an elderly man in a white lab coat with white hair, but a vigorous spirit striding over, surrounded by several hospital executives. It was none other than Dr. Miller, the sought-after director they had been talking about. Nurse Patricia's face went pale, and she hurried forward, pointing at me to complain. "Dr. Miller, you've come at just the right time." This woman snuck into the VIP lounge and wouldn't leave, causing a huge scene. I was just about to have security throw her out. Dr. Miller frowned, looking in the direction she was pointing. When he saw my face clearly, he first froze, then his expression suddenly changed, his face instantly darkening. He took a few steps forward, ignoring the astonished gazes of others, and surprisingly walked past everyone directly to me. Marcus, Eleanor, and Jessica exchanged gleeful glances, waiting for the spectacle of me being personally reprimanded by the director, daring to act out in front of Dr. Miller. "She's finished." Under the expectant gazes of the crowd, Dr. Miller stopped in front of me, and his formerly serious face actually squeezed out a remarkably warm, somewhat fawning smile. "Oh, Mrs. Alexander, why are you personally digging in the dirt here? Such manual labor can be handled by the staff." As he spoke, he immediately turned around and yelled at the stunned hospital executives behind him. "What exactly are you people doing? Mr. Alexander explicitly instructed us to take good care of his wife and the children, and this is how you care for them?" Letting Alexander personally squat here and rummaged through a flower pot, now apologized to Mrs. Alexander. The moment his words fell, the entire VIP lounge fell into a deathly silence. The mockery and smugness on Marcus' face instantly froze, as if a bucket of ice water had been thrown over his head, chilling him to the bone. Jessica, even more shocked, gaped, and her designer bag clattered to the floor with a thud. Nurse Patricia, who had been so arrogant just moments ago, was now deathly pale, her legs giving out, almost causing her to collapse to her knees. She stammered as she looked at me, her voice trembling uncontrollably. "Mrs. Alexander, you're the one from New." I gave her a fleeting glance, dusted off the action figure in my hand, and handed it to Lily and Leo, who had appeared beside me at some point. The two adorable little ones thanked me in their sweet, childish voices.
"Thank you, Mommy."
Marcus' gaze was fixated on the two children, then abruptly snapped back to me, the shock and disbelief in his eyes almost overflowing. He was as if throttled, unable to utter a single word. He could never have imagined that after 5 years, I was not only married, but had given birth to twins. What was even more unbearable for him was that I had married the Alexander family heir from New, the very person he looked up to, whom the entire city's business elite sought to curry favor with. Dr. Miller didn't even glance at him, simply bent at the waist and respectfully explained to me, "Mrs. Alexander, I am truly sorry. It is due to our hospital's poor management that you and the children were startled. Mr. Alexander specifically instructed that I personally oversee your and the children's checkups. All procedures have been properly arranged, and there will be no errors whatsoever." I nodded and took the children's hand.
"DS."
"Thank you, Dr. Miller." "Not at all. It's my honor."
"Dr."
Miller's face crinkled with a smile. He then instantly sobered, turning to the utterly distraught Nurse Patricia and sternly reprimanded her. "Patricia, you're fired. Go to Human immediately to complete the procedures. Our hospital has no room for someone lacking judgment like you."
"Wait."
I spoke up, interrupting him. Dr. Miller paused, thinking I had gone soft. Patricia, as if clutching at a lifeline, immediately lunged forward, trying to grab my legs and crying out, "Mrs. Alexander, please be magnanimous. I was lacking judgment. I beg you, give me another chance." I stepped aside, avoiding her, and looked at her, my voice calm, yet icy. "I'm not letting you off the hook. I just think that simply firing you would be too easy." I turned my gaze to Dr. Miller. My husband invested in this hospital to provide the best medical services, not to let certain individuals throw their weight around and tarnish the hospital's reputation. I believe someone like this should be reported to the entire industry, making her permanently unemployable. Dr. Miller understood instantly. He immediately straightened his back, his voice booming. Mrs. Alexander is right. I was foolish. Guards, take her away and do as Mrs. Alexander instructs. Security guards immediately stepped forward and dragged away Patricia, who was sobbing uncontrollably. In the entire lounge, no one dared to make another sound. Marcus's face could no longer be described as merely ugly. It was a twisted mask of jealousy, regret, humiliation, and profound confusion. He stared intensely at the twins beside me, his Adam's apple bobbing with difficulty, and squeezed out a few hoarse words. The children, are they yours? The question was utterly ridiculous. If not mine, whose would they be? His? I was too bothered to answer, so I took the children's hands, about to leave. But he suddenly rushed forward, blocking my path, his eyes bloodshot. Grace, explain yourself. Weren't you infertile? What about that diagnosis report from back then? At a shout, everyone's gaze converged, filled with scrutiny and gossip. Jessica finally snapped back to reality, rushing forward to grab his arm and screaming, Marcus, are you crazy? Why are you asking her that? You're already divorced. Whether she can have children or not. What does that have to do with us? Marcus violently shook her off, but his eyes never left me. His gaze like a wounded beast. Answer me. Were you lying to me from the very beginning? Watching his hysterical state, I finally couldn't help but laugh. Marcus, don't you understand? Even now, the one who couldn't have children back then was never me. It was you. My words instantly froze the air in the VIP lounge. Everyone's breath hitched. Marcus looked as if he had heard some unbelievable tale. First bewildered, then erupting into a nearly insane roar. That's impossible. Grace, this must be a lie you made up to get revenge on me. He abruptly pointed at Jessica, who looked guilty beside him. His voice distorted by agitation. Grace, can't you see? Jess is standing right here. She's carrying my child, my offspring.
How dare you spread rumors about me?
Jessica also seemed to awaken from a dream and immediately chimed in. Yes, I'm carrying Mark's baby. Grace, you're so malicious. Just because you can't have children, you're cursing us. The more she spoke, the more agitated she became, thrusting out her pregnant belly and lunging at me, cursing foully. I'll rip your lying mouth apart.
Dr.
Miller, quick-witted, immediately had security intercept her. I watched the couple who were behaving like madmen with a cold gaze, a sarcastic curve playing on my lips. My gaze lightly fell upon Jessica's belly. Marcus, do you want me to tell you something? That infertility diagnosis report your mother showed me back then, the name on it was yours. She was afraid of hurting your ego, so she pushed all the blame onto me and you to preserve your ridiculous male pride, complacently accepted it all. My words struck Marcus' heart like a heavy hammer. His body trembled violently, his eyes slowly shifting from frantic rage to terror and confusion. Clearly, he remembered something. This can't be. This isn't real. My mother said it was your body that had problems. That's why, he mumbled as if trying to convince himself. I couldn't help but scoff, reading. You believe everything your mother says, or are you simply too afraid to face the truth? So 5 years ago, you didn't even have the courage to get a proper medical checkup? Cold sweat beat and trickled from Marcus' forehead. Seeing his appearance, Jessica's eyes filled with suspicion and fear, no longer holding her former arrogance. Mark, what diagnosis report? Don't believe her. She's talking nonsense. Marcus stood there, utterly lost and dazed, without reacting for a long time. The wealthy women's expressions instantly shifted, changing from amusement to watching a year-long family drama unfold. Their gazes darted back and forth between Marcus, Jessica, and me, whispers rising and falling around them. Oh my God, so Mr. Marcus really can't have children. Then the baby in Jessica's belly is. No wonder they got pregnant before marriage, but still delayed the wedding. There's more to it than meets the eye. The gossip was like countless poison needles, utterly defeating Marcus. His proud success, his smugly triumphant facade, was shattered by me in that moment, trampled underfoot. Watching him on the verge of collapse, I felt no satisfaction, only a sense of absurdity. I took the children's hands, turned, and said to Dr. Miller, "Dr. Miller, we can start now. The children have been waiting long enough." "Of course, Mrs. Alexander, this way, please."
Dr.
Miller, as if granted a reprieve, immediately led the way. "Stop." Marcus suddenly let out a roar. He stood in front of me, eyes bloodshot, his face filled with despair and resentment, staring intently at me. "So, you married that Alexander just to prove your body is fine, and you can have children?" Before I could respond to his shameless accusation, a cold and extremely oppressive voice suddenly sounded from behind me. "My wife wants to have children with whom, is that for you to question?" The moment his words fell, the temperature in the entire VIP lounge seemed to plummet several degrees. A tall and distinguished man, flanked by a group of bodyguards, slowly emerged from the elevator. He wore a tailored dark gray handmade suit, his handsome face impeccable. His deep-set eyes, like cold pools, swept across the room emotionlessly. Yet anyone who met his gaze involuntarily held their breath. The powerful aura of a long-standing authority figure emanating from him instantly silenced the formerly bustling, wealthy women who didn't dare to even breathe loudly. Daddy, Lily, and Leo, the twins beside me, immediately broke free from my hands and rushed towards the man like swallows returning to their nest. The man's icy face instantly melted, a tender smile spreading across it. He bent down, easily, picking up the two adorable little ones, one in each arm, and kissed each of their rosy cheeks. "Why did you run out without listening to Daddy? Didn't I tell you to wait patiently for Daddy?" His voice was deep and doing completely different from his earlier cold tone. "Mommy was bullied by a bad man." Lily pouted, pointing at Marcus as she complained. The man holding the children walked slowly to my side, gently brushing a stray lock of hair from my forehead behind my ear, his eyes full of tenderness. "I'm sorry I arrived late." I shook my head, signaling that I was fine. Only then did he turn his icy gaze back to Marcus, who had gone completely pale. He parted his thin lips, his tone calm, but carrying an undeniable authority just now, who was speaking disrespectfully to my wife. Under this powerful aura, Marcus was ALR. Eddie, sweating profusely, his legs turning to jelly. The man standing before him was Alexander, the head of the Alexander family from New. The very person he had tried so hard to collaborate with, yet found impossible to even meet. He never dreamed that the man I described as having a bit of a temper and being very possessive was this business titan, capable of controlling everything. "Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander." Marcus' voice trembled like leaves in an autumn wind. "Misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding." Alexander didn't give him a chance to explain. Holding the children, he turned his gaze to Dr. Miller, his tone still calm. "Dr. Miller, I recall that when I invested in this hospital, I made a request." Dr. Miller immediately bowed, his demeanor 100 times more respectful than before. "Mr. Alexander, rest assured, I remember anyone who harasses, threatens, or insults Mrs. Alexander and her family will be placed on a permanent blacklist across all industries under the Alexander." Alexander gave a slight nod, his gaze returning to Marcus and the terrified Jessica, his voice as cold as tempered ice. "Now, may I ask these two to disappear from my wife's sight?" "Yes, sir." Dr. Miller immediately signaled the security guards. 2 security guards rushed forward like wolves, grabbing Marcus, one on each side. "No, Mr. Alexander, please let me explain." Marcus finally recovered from the immense shock. He struggled desperately, his face filled with regret and fear. Grace, please say something for me. We were husband and wife after all."
"You can't do this to me."
Jessica also started crying out. "Mrs. Alexander, we were wrong. We were truly wrong.
Please let us go."
Our company just secured funding. If we're blacklisted by the Alexander, everything will be ruined." I watched their pathetic state, my heart completely indifferent. If only they had known this would happen, they wouldn't have acted as they did back then. When they trampled on me and humiliated me without restraint, did they ever imagine this day would come? Seeing that I was unmoved, Alexander no longer paid attention to their wailing. He looked down at me and asked softly, "Are you tired?" After the checkup, "We'll take Lily and Leo to your favorite French restaurant." I nodded, offering a faint smile. Marcus, being dragged away, watched our intimate and unreserved interaction. Seeing the undisguised affection and pampering in Alexander's eyes, the last glimmer of hope in his own eyes finally shattered. He seemed to have had all his strength drained, stopped struggling, and allowed the security guards to drag him out. But his gaze remained fixed on me, his eyes incredibly complex, filled with jealousy, resentment, but even more a deep, irreparable regret. Alexander held the children, and I walked beside him, heading towards the exclusive checkup channel, escorted by Dr. Miller and a host of senior executives. Behind us, Marcus and Jessica's cries were finally completely cut off by the heavy soundproof door. In the following days, I spent time with the children, enjoying a rare peaceful time. Marcus' world, however, was falling apart at an unprecedented speed. The group's influence in Crestwood was even greater than I had imagined. The 5 words permanent blacklist were a decree powerful enough to send Hayes to the deepest hell. First, there was the funding that had made him so smug. On the afternoon, they learned the news. Investors urgently withdrew their capital, citing significant integrity issues and uncontrollable reputational risks on the part of the founder. They also activated the breach of contract clause, demanding Marcus pay triple the penalty fee. Immediately after, all of the company's partners, regardless of size, seemed to have received a unified instruction and rescinded their contracts. Banks quickly reacted, tightening all credit overnight and demanding he repay all loans immediately. The company's funding dried up insta-NLY. Its stock price plummeted, becoming a worthless stock no one was interested in within days. Employees were terrified and resigned en masse. His company, which he had built from scratch and taken such pride in, instantly became an empty shell, burdened with astronomical debt. But this was just the beginning. The scandal of the head of Hayes being infertile had already spread like wildfire through Crestwood's upper-class circles. Marcus became the biggest joke in the circles. A rising star in the business world who couldn't have children himself, kicked out his ex-wife, and ended up being cuckolded. Wherever he went, people would point and whisper. Those who once flattered him now avoided him like the plague. Eleanor, even more so, completely collapsed. She cornered Jessica, who was packing her things to flee, and desperately tried to drag her to get a paternity test. Jessica naturally refused adamantly, throwing a fit and claiming Eleanor didn't trust her and was insulting her and Marcus' relationship. However, the more she acted this way, the more suspicious Eleanor became. After a spectacular uproar, the paternity test results came out. The child was indeed not Marcus. At that moment, Eleanor was so enraged that she suffered a stroke, becoming paralyzed on one side with a crooked mouth and askew eyes. She lay in the hospital, unable to utter a complete sentence, only able to stare at the ceiling with a hateful glare all day. As for Marcus, when he received the paternity test report, he showed no anger or roaring. He just stood there and laughed blankly. As he laughed, tears streamed down his face. He had lost, utterly defeated. He had lost not just his company, money, and reputation. He had lost his dignity as a man, his mother's health, and the woman who had once deeply loved him, endured hardships with him, and built from scratch by his side. He remembered how I was with him through his struggles when he had nothing, working late nights to build his sinus, leaving a light on for him late at night, and preparing his breakfast in the morning. All those past events lingered in his mind. He felt crazy inside, desperately wanting to see me. That day, Alexander had reserved an entire field of flowers for me at a private equestrian club outside Crestwood to celebrate our wedding anniversary. The sun was shining perfectly, and the children and I were laughing and playing among the blossoms. Marcus suddenly appeared. He was dressed in rags, emaciated with greasy, matted hair, and reeking of a foul odor, no different from a homeless person on the street. He was held back by bodyguards at the edge of the field of flowers. His knees gave out, and he heavily knelt down from a distance. "Grace," he roared with effort, his voice tired and hoarse. "I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I shouldn't have believed my mother. I shouldn't have doubted you. And I certainly shouldn't have let you suffer so much. Please come back. Come back to me. I'll give you everything. I'll give you my life." He cried as he forcefully slapped himself again and again. The sound sharp and loud until his cheeks were swollen with blood oozing from the corners of his mouth. "Look at me. I have nothing left. I'm getting my karma. Didn't you want revenge? I feel worse than death. Please just come back. I'll do anything. I'll go kneel and cow out to Alexander. I'll work like a slave just to see you one more time." I watched him calmly, my gaze unwavering. Alexander walked over, took off his jacket and draped it over me, gently pulled me into his arms, shielding me from the unpleasant sight. He lowered his head and kissed my forehead and softly said, "Don't look. It defiles the eyes." Then he addressed the bodyguards in the distance and gave an order. "He wants to work like a slave, doesn't he? I happen to own a mining operation in Siberia that needs a few fearless laborers." Alexander's voice wasn't loud, but it clearly reached Marcus's ears. "Send him there, and let him spend the rest of his life using his own body to atone for the harm he inflicted on my wife." As for that woman, Alexander paused, a chill flashing in his eyes. "I heard the money she embezzled is enough to prosecute her for fraud. Tell the local police that we have all the evidence ready, and let her reflect well in prison on what it means to reap what you sow." Marcus heard these words and completely broke down. He knew this wasn't a threat. Going to a mining operation in Siberia meant a life sentence worse than death. He stared with wide, terrified eyes and frantically knocked his head on the ground, his forehead quickly bleeding profusely from his forehead. "No, please.
Grace, save me.
For old time's sake, I beg you." His desperate cries abruptly ceased. The bodyguards efficiently taped his mouth shut and dragged him from the ground like a dead dog, shoved him into a black car, which then sped away. From beginning to end, I didn't spare him another glance. In the sunlight, Alexander's warm embrace and the children's clear laughter were the truest happiness of my life. As for the darkness and mire I had long left behind, whatever their ultimate fate, it no longer concerned me in the slightest.